What's your name?
Alan Bifolk.
And how old are you?
I'm 18.
And what grade are you in?
I'm a senior, 12th grade.
Excellent. Okay. So, can you tell me 3 things about yourself?
3 things about myself. I guess I really cherish friends, one thing. I'm kind of a jokester, second thing. And the third thing, I guess, is going along with the jokester thing a little bit, is I can tell when it's time to be serious and really get down to work, so I can really differentiate my time that way.
That's great. That's really great. Tell me a little bit about your peers, about your peer group, and what kind of influence you feel like your friends have in your life.
Let's see. Well, I have some very close friends. I have 4 or 5 within my school that are very close. I would tell them anything, and vice versa. I also have a friend outside of school from my last school. They have a lot of influence because we tend to think alike, so generally when we talk to each other, we have a lot of the same things to say, but at the same time when one of us differs, we want to hear what that differing opinion is because this person's like us. They must have the same type of train of thought as we do. So let's hear what they have to say because we might be wrong, if you will, or we would respect their opinion for that reason because we respect them as a friend.
Right.
So that's how my peers might influence me.
Right. Would you say that right now in your life, who has more influence, your peers or your parents?
I would have to say my peers, though my parents on an equal spectrum. My parents and I have a great relationship to the point where we're almost peers. It's not at all sort of a dictatorship at home. We work together a lot. I do some chores, they help me out. They help me pay car insurance and things like that. So it's a working relationship.
Right, right. Do you...
Yeah. Show part of the shirt.
Okay.
Do we need to go back on anything? Okay. So, do you feel like your parents and your peers influence you in different domains?
Let's see. Yes and no. My mother sort of is very open with me, and likewise me with her. So she sort of has the same influence as my peers might have on me because it's more of that sort of peer-to-peer relationship. But my father has more of a professional relationship with me. Sort of if I do something that I need to be punished for, or I do something bad in school and my parents have to be called, then he would sort of be the not the stern one, but he would be the more serious one. This is an issue. This has a problem. Whereas my mom might say, "Oh, I did that in college," or "I did that in high school," and everyone does that.
Right. Have they ever had to come to school?
They haven't, no.
Oh, yeah, good. Okay. Let's see. Tell me about conformity in your school. Do you feel pressure to conform in any way?
Do I feel pressure? Well, I entered the school in 10th grade, which is unconventional because usually people enter 9th grade in high school. But my last school entered after 9th grade and ended there, so I came in 10th grade. And so I felt sort of like I was out of the loop for at least the first little while. And as welcoming as the students were, I still found myself self-conscious and saying, wow, they're all doing this. Should I do this to be a little bit more accepted? Because, naturally when you're new in an environment, you try to not to ostracize yourself, certainly. It's bad enough if somebody says something about you and you feel ostracized by them. But likewise, you don't want to have that effect on yourself.
Right. What kinds of things were they doing that you felt like you would need to do as well? Do you remember?
To be quite frank, it was sort of a touchy-feeliness that was going around the school. It was sort of not at all out of bounds, I would say, but it was just people would be hugging each other, maybe even giving each other a kiss, just they were very good friends, nothing more, as a matter of fact.
Males and males?
Males and females, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, but so obviously it was sort of sexually related, but there would be sort of no other sexual relationship between these students. But at the same time, it was there a little bit, and I was sort of wondering, oh, well, I guess that's okay in this environment. Should I do that? I mean, I guess that's okay with me, but I had no reason not to.
Right, right. But it was something new.
Absolutely.
Right. What about dating? Tell me about dating. What are the rules?
The rules of dating? Well, I've debated that with myself a lot. One thing I try to do is I try to sort of be classically chivalrous and pay for dinner and things like that. But I've been admonished for that even by someone I was dating before because it's 21st century. Why don't you let me pay for some of the dinner too? It's different on a first date, but we've been going out for 3 months. So why don't you let me pay?
Are you comfortable with that?
I am, though at the same time I'm self-conscious that I should be paying, that I'm falling short somewhere. And I don't want to hurt myself in bringing myself down. It's bad enough if she sees something bad in me, but I don't want to hurt myself in that aspect by not living up to some standard that I should be.
Right. Okay, so back to the rules. You pay for dinner, you're chivalrous.
Sure.
Where do you go?
Man, usually sort of out to dinner and to the movies, nothing special. Something I used to like to do with my girlfriend is even just rent a movie, watch it on the couch at home, and just enjoy each other's company. So you don't really, you can talk in private. You can have your arm around her and vice versa, and not be embarrassed because it's in public. So it was a little more intimate, I guess you could say, at home.
Right. Let's see. How about let's talk about risk-taking behaviors like alcohol, drugs. Is that a part of your world?
Personally? Yes and no. I do enjoy trying new things. The other day I tried sushi. I had a big thing against it because supposedly there's a potential risk in eating raw fish. But I said, hey, what the heck? So I gave it a try. Didn't like it too much, but I had another. Why not? And I suppose you could, of course, apply that to drugs or drinking. I personally haven't, but under the right circumstances, I think I would. If we're in a not-so-dangerous situation, if I'm around with some of my very best friends, if there's a designated driver, certainly if there's somebody who's not drinking, so that if something goes wrong, they can take control of the situation, then I might try drinking and even drugs. But at the same time, there are bounds that you don't cross. I would never try heroin or cocaine because those more or less just do harm to you. Whereas the same goes for cigarettes. And I've known that. I've had family members who've died from cigarette exposure, but I tried it, and not because, hey, I might like it, but I wanted to have the experience of trying it.
Do you think that drugs and alcohol are an issue with other people who are your age?
I think so. I notice a lot of my peers they might have troubled situations in one way or another, whether it's with their parents or boyfriend, girlfriend, life in general, and some of them do sort of idealize their fun time as getting drunk or high, and that certainly has its risks, but I think it definitely is prominent, I guess you could say, in a dangerous way.
Okay. What about AIDS? Do you think that AIDS has changed the behavior of teenagers?
Most teenagers, I don't think so. I think the masses, so to speak, are still far too ignorant about the dangers of AIDS especially, but other STDs as well. I know that I wasn't really concerned about it. Of course, I knew about it and I knew you could get it, etc., but I wasn't really concerned about it until I saw a video on TV about what happens to your body when you get AIDS, what you have to live with, the fact that a cold can kill you, what some people's lives were like when they gave testimonials of people who had AIDS, and it was horrendous. And sort of only after I had that experience was I able to say that, wow, that's definitely not for me. I really need to avoid this. And the same for cigarettes. I mean, I tried it. I said, this is terrible. But I certainly have to take some risks to see what I do and don't like.
Right. Let's see. What about crowds in your school? Do you have certain crowds, like, the freaks and the jocks, or the...
I think so, sure. My school's actually more academically oriented, so the jocks aren't per se present in the school.
Do you still call them jocks?
No. I mean, we sort of say, hey, we don't have any jocks here. There are kids who play sports, but not as prevalent as in other schools. You won't see kids wearing their varsity jackets around the halls. But there are kids who are incredibly gifted with computer science, and they'll always be in the computer lab fooling around with something on the internet.
What are they called?
Computer nerds, computer geeks, sure.
Okay.
They definitely have a name for them. But yeah, they're those type of people, and they hang out together in one crowd. And usually I won't associate, or I should say my crowd that I usually associate with wouldn't associate with their crowd. So there's generally not much intermingling going on.
What crowd are you in?
Most of my friends are seniors. A lot of that reason is because we hang out most together, just literally because we have the same classes, so we're around each other more. But sort of people who have had similar experiences to me, or who can help me better my experiences or extend those.
What about your future? Do you have plans for what you want to do after you finish high school?
I have an idea. I think I definitely want to go to college, that's for sure. But in college, I know I want to slow down, so to speak. But at the same time I want to slow down, I want to be able to absorb more. For example, I think I want to go pre-med. I think I want to study pre-medicine and eventually become a doctor. But at the same time, I want to spend a semester abroad. I want to do a semester-long community service project in some foreign country. I want to go on those kind of foreign aid projects. I want to spend a semester here, spend a semester there, do this for a semester. I want to minor in law and major in something else. I want to get French. At the same time that I want to slow down and not rush myself, I want to be able to absorb much more so that I can, again, see what I like, see what I don't, and make better choices based on that.
Good answer.
Nice.
Do you worry about the SATs at all?
Yes and no. This attitude is the same as my grades. Although I'm certainly not, I've never been an A+ student, never been a straight A student. I'm not going to get a 1600 on the SATs. I didn't. I already taken them. But certainly they play a role in the admissions process. So you need to have decent SATs to get into any college. You're not going to get into a college with 400 combined SATs. But at the same time, SATs and grades are sort of part of that admissions game, if you will. Sort of something you have to do that isn't really a tribute to your character or anything like that, but it's some sort of societal standard that you need to tailor yourself to in order to get somewhere. Right. And that's sort of the attitude I have towards them. But I know that SATs aren't what's going to get me into college. Likewise, grades. So I'm not worried about them in that sense.
Okay. Now I'm going to read you a little story
okay.
and then ask you a couple questions.
All right.
Okay. In Europe, a woman was dying from a special kind of cancer. In the same town where the woman and her husband Heinz lived, a druggist had discovered a possible cure. But the medicine cost much more than the woman or her husband could afford. So Heinz, the sick woman's husband, then borrowed all the money he could, but still had only half of what he needed. Heinz told the druggist that his wife was dying and asked him to sell the drug cheaper or to let him pay later. The druggist replied, "No, I discovered the drug and I'm going to make money from it." Heinz then became desperate and broke into the store to steal the drug for his wife. Should Heinz have stolen the drug?
Absolutely. There are some things that I think that we can't understand yet. I think love is one of them. I think it's one of those things that you don't know until you experience it, certainly. I know my father used to say the same thing to me. He says, I would say to him, how do you know Mom was for you? And he said, oh, well, I didn't until I saw her. He said that he might have seen her any other day and might have written her off, or might have seen her with her crowd and wouldn't have gone up to her like he did when she was alone in the corner doing work. But he saw her, and there was an instant connection. And I've experienced at least degrees of that, certainly. So I can attest to that. So I think that's one of the things that we can't really understand yet. And to punish someone because of going above and beyond out of love for somebody, I think goes over the bounds of our understanding.
So if you had to say, was Heinz right or wrong to steal the drug?
Oh man, I'd have to say he was right. I mean, he certainly couldn't live with himself if he hadn't. I mean, he would not stop himself saying, oh, you know what, I'll spend the rest of my life in jail. I better not. There was someone he cared about so much, and he put his own reputation and even life on the line to do so. And I don't think someone would do that unless they felt justified in doing so. So I think he's right.
Right. Good. Okay. How about this? This is fun. What if we didn't have thumbs?
What if we didn't have thumbs?
What would happen?
Man, I think the whole world would change, kind of. I know a friend of mine who's a lefty, and in 5th grade we were just shooting the breeze one day, and she said, "You know, the whole world's made for righties." I said, "What are you talking about, the whole world's made for righties?" She said, "Well, door handles all open a certain way, tables are made a certain way, desks in school are all made for righties. You'll notice that when you get in, you can prop your right arm up but not your left one." And sort of for the next week or so, I kept my eye out, and she was right. I mean, the whole world is sort of tailored to the majority, the righties. And so I think if we were to lose something as simple but critical as our thumb, the whole world would change. Maybe a bunch of little things, but all those little things would add up to something major, and I think the whole world would be different.
Yeah. What if people had 3 eyes?
3 eyes.
Yeah. Where would you put your 3rd eye?
Oh, man. I think in the back of my head. Not just to satisfy the cliche, you know, you've got eyes in the back of your head, but I mean, that came from somewhere. I mean, it's tough to walk straight ahead when you know there's something going on behind you. You know, everyone turns around to see what's going on. To sort of be able to have that perception, to be able to know what's going on all around you without having to break your stride is not only comforting, but is an exciting feeling. I'd want it there.
There you go.
Well, what about like drugs and alcohol and other, you know, things that are pretty rampant in teenage culture? Is that a problem for you guys, or does it exist?
I think it exists.
Oh, it exists a lot, yeah,
think-
obviously.
I just don't think people, like, we're not the type of, like, I don't know. I guess, like Joel said, if it's not within, like, your group of people that you kind of associate yourself with, I don't think you'll find that just, like, randomly. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have, like, we don't.
People don't like pressure other
Yeah,
people to
don't
do it
pressure other
unless,
people.
yeah, you know?
Exactly.
Like, you don't.
walk away from you if you don't drink or smoke with them. If you don't want to do it, that's on you.
Yeah.
No one's gonna force. No one's gonna like say, okay, I'm not your friend anymore if you don't drink
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
or whatever. If you do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't.
And so you said that it kind of depends on your group or whatever. Do you, is there a group of people who are like the party people or the people who use drugs and alcohol a lot? Or,
There's definitely the certain people that you would see at parties.
Right.
but it's
But
not a
like-
group
But
of
it's,
people.
like, different.
It's not, and it's usually people that don't hang out with each other anyway all the time. Like,
Right.
it'll be like a few people from different groups of friends that are the ones that would want to go like hang out and party or whatever.
Depending on whose, like, party it is.
It's really pretty random.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Some people just, like, would show up at a party that they probably don't know a lot of people
Yeah.
at, like, randomly, or it'll be, like, vice versa. But, like, it's not so much like we have, like, big group, like, big, huge parties that, like, the whole school goes to, only because it's so big.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't have like
Yeah.
the thing is a lot of people when they have parties like you don't want to tell everybody because the school is so huge that you know you'll have like 1 million people coming to your house. So, you know, people keep it D and then it becomes just just the friends and like, you know, you don't really worry about what other people are doing.
Right. So tell me about the parties. Like, is that your primary way that you get together to socialize with friends, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like what? Tell me.
Like, I think it's more used as a thing to socialize with people that you don't necessarily socialize with.
That's true actually. You don't see it's
You
with
don't-
people that
like,
you don't see
I mean,
all
the
the
people
time.
you see all the time, you automatically associate yourself with. But, like, at parties, you'll, like, see people, like, you haven't seen in a while, or people you usually don't see at parties sometimes, or
Yeah.
people that you don't interact with as much.
And the parties are at people's houses.
Usually.
Or
outside.
sometimes there's, like, teen center parties, or...
Yeah. Or
like-
in Fresh Pond.
In what? What's that?
It's just like there's like a reserve wooded area like in Cambridge. People will just go out and like drink in the parks if there's nothing better to do. You know, people will just go to a park and kill 40s.
Kill 40s?
Yeah.
Ah. Tell me about the killing 40s. What's this?
Have you ever heard of a 40?
A 40?
It's
Part of
40
Cambridge
ounces
is
of
that
beer.
it's so Cambridge is so densely populated that a big problem is that if not even that there's a lot of people there, but if you're making a lot of noise, the houses are so close together that you're gonna eventually have to. The police will come if you have a big party. So I mean, one way of getting rid of that problem is just by going out and parks or, like you said, wooded areas or whatever.
Yeah, because you can't get in trouble.
And-
like people are afraid to have it at their house because they know the cops will end up there, and then they're gonna get in trouble. So they're just like, whatever, let's just go
so
outside.
The weather's nice. Sometimes you'll see people outside. Not like right now when it's 30 degrees out though.
But if you were out in the park killing 40s or whatever, couldn't you get in trouble for that too? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can run away from the cops easily. It's much easier in a park than in a house,
I see.
and no one will get in trouble as long as no
Or
one gets
in a
caught.
dance hall, like Fatima said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an arranged party where
Yeah.
people are doing it inside.
Right, a dance hall. So some parties are like in a.
Or like at like some people will rent like private parties or people that have parties on like their own money and own time. They'll have it and like, I mean, you're not supposed to drink, but people usually like do anyways, and like no one will get caught only because it's a private party and there's no kind of like school
Yeah.
supervision or like.
Often the places that they have it don't really care. Like they're
Right.
making money off it anyway, so they're like, whatever, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
If you have
as long as the kid isn't
VFWs.
really sloppy,
Yeah.
they're not gonna get kicked out.
Yeah. What about like dating? Do you, do the people that you hang with kind of pair up, or is it all just everybody's kind of, like.
There's random couples in the school.
There are random couples.
But like I think like the couples like are known as couples. Like
yeah.
it's really obvious like who's a couple. And like some people like
like certain people, like if people will notice that two people are a couple if they see them together all the time.
or people
That's
will
how-
think that you're a couple. I know
Yeah.
I've had that problem a couple
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, that's
a couple
happened.
times.
People like because I really cool with like males, so they automatically assume that like I go out with them, but it's not the case.
There's definitely certain people that are definitely like couple people and will always be in like some kind of relationship, And then there's other people that you pretty much know are usually not attached to anybody else, Or you can assume most of the time.
So do you guys like date, go on dates,
Definitely not. I've never been
It's like
No.
never ever like
like
gone out
I mean
to
I've
dinner
gone
and
to the
movie.
movies or something, but like I don't consider it like a date. Like we don't have like a set like let's make a date.
Dates really aren't formal at all.
Yeah,
At
they're not
all.
formal at all. There's
People
no like,
usually
I'll
Only
pick
the
you up at your
prom.
house and then
Like-
we'll go to dinner.
That's like the most formal date
When
like I
peop-
think we have is
when-
like the prom.
People usually talk about. They never say we went on a date. They just say we just chilled.
Yeah.
Oh, you chilled.
Or if people are going out, you don't like, I mean, you'll hang out like alone, but like often you'll just like go to a party together. You won't like go like off on your own all the time.
Okay, but so do you go pick each other up and then go together, or do you meet there, or,
It depends on how
Depends
serious
on-
the relationship
yeah.
is.
I see.
The school's definitely, it's
yeah.
it's really diverse, but like it's cut
really-
down the like
It's
black and white
segregated.
line a lot.
Really?
And a lot of it's self-segregated.
It's
like
self-segregated.
it's completely
exactly.
like
It's not has nothing to do with like the people or
Yeah,
anything. It's
yeah.
self-segregated.
Not just black and white too. Like there's a whole bilingual section. Like
Yeah.
there's
like,
definitely
the major section is like there's like black like black people and like people who want to kind of pretend that they're black,
see that
and then
more,
there's
like-
white people.
Tell me about that.
you see.
Like
You can go.
go ahead.
All right, you probably see it the most at like school dances or say after school when people are outside the school just hanging out before everyone goes home. Like
Yeah.
it's more black and white there, like where people hang out.
Yeah.
Like if you go to a dance, there's definitely a segregation line
Yeah.
Why?
of where.
I don't, but
I
it's
don't
like
know, like, I really-
self-segregation, so
yeah.
it's probably just because of you always go to your friends. I don't think it has anything to do with the color. Like if I had a friend that wasn't my race or nationality or whatever, I would not talk to them because they're like that way. It's just how it like works out. Like
There's definitely no one that's like racist.
Yeah.
Like there's no one that's like would be mad at someone else because they're a different color or whatever. Like there's none of that at all. It's just like people seem to form friendships quicker with like
People that have stuff in common,
people
right?
of their own race, and then that just sticks, and then the little groups or whatever will add up, and they'll all be like I don't know, it'll become the big group, and that's like you don't really move between them that much once they become that big.
What about you said homophobia. What about people who have a different sexual orientation? Is that accepted?
Yeah, no one really
Yeah.
cares.
I
No
don't-
one gets like beat up for
Yeah,
it. We actually, I mean,
well, I mean, there's the coming out day assembly, which is like an assembly that's like school wide during like 2 periods, and like people that have that like different sexual preferences come out, I guess, to the school and express like how they feel or whatever, and it's a cool assembly. Like no one really.
Everyone always tries to get in every year.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
really
the-
like common.
It's
Like
really-
a lot of people like that assembly. I don't know.
Every-
The school's
Everyone
really
really likes-
accepting of kids. Actually, we have a gay straight alliance, and like I don't know, like it's really not like a bad thing to be.
I think people are very like accepting, but it does seem like there's a lot more females who do come out. I don't think I've ever seen a male come out. So I don't know if that's if people in general don't want to see that, but I think it does take more courage to come out as a boy. So like I don't think I've ever seen that in the assembly. It's always girls.
Is this assembly run by the faculty at your school, or do the
Gay
students?
Straight Alliance.
It's like you see some people hang out. Sometimes like people hang out with different people all the time. But like I wouldn't say there's a certain group with that name and a certain group with that name.
So you don't have the skaters and the surfers and the.
Well, there's people like that. You could stereotype people like that, but it's not. You don't have to like. There's not
Like you can't
set
look
bounds.
at them and like say,
Yeah.
oh, those are the jocks, those are the skaters.
Because everybody kind of hangs with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really
There's like
great.
a lot of little groups kind of since it's such a big high school. There's not like one group of jocks and one group of nerds. It's kind of like everyone can kind of fit in between more than like there's a lot less school pride at a bigger school like this in a public school. But if you go out, in the suburbs, you see a lot more school pride, like fighting for your football team and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot less of that here.
So what about conformity? Like, do you feel like there's pressure to conform to certain?
I think the school's pretty good about that, actually. I've never felt like
Really?
I've never been like ridiculed because I like wear grimy clothes or anything. It's
What
never
about-
been bad.
Fatima, what about you?
I don't know. I think I just most likely the people that I hang out with are people that I've known since elementary school because Cambridge isn't really that big. So like the groups that I've formed are like friends that I've had since I was like little. That's just what made them.
So no, like peer pressure to do anything that you wouldn't want to do, or
I think that exists. I don't know. Like amongst the senior class, I think since we came from like the small schools and like the houses, I think that people kind of like formed like their own groups and people they were comfortable with. So I don't think that there's much pressure like from just the school as one, as a whole.
The school seems to be so big that like, unless it's like your close friend or someone you see a lot or hang out with a lot, you don't really care about other people. Like you don't care what they do. Like I don't care. Like,
Right.
Tell me your name.
Jason Ramos.
And Ramos?
Yep.
Have you always lived in Cambridge?
No, I haven't. I've lived in Cambridge for the past 5 years, and before that I've lived in various towns in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Were they like big cities or small towns?
Some small towns, East Bridgewater. Everett was the larger town, and I also lived in Plymouth, up in the Cape.
So was it strange moving to Cambridge?
Not really so much. My father had always lived here, so I was with my mother, so I just moved in with my father 5 years ago. So other than that, no, it wasn't that big of a change because I'd been there on the weekends, and so it wasn't that big of a change.
What about the first time when you moved here, about the other students? Not students, but just the people that you know. Was it strange getting to know them?
Not at all. It was quite easy. It was just like, people, it was easy. People my age, I'd known some of them because they were some of the neighborhood kids. So once I had gone to the neighborhood elementary school, it was a really easy transition because I knew most of them anyway.
Yeah. And now, Cambridge Regional Latin, it's a big school.
Oh, yeah.
Are there students or types of people here that are more popular than others?
I would say no. Popularity is subjective to what group you kind of fall in, what kind of friends you hang around with. Just it's very different to the kind of people you hang around with. It just varies.
What are the groups?
As far as groups, usually is non-segregated as it can be. It usually is. That's even in the classrooms. The white kids sit on one side, the black kids and Spanish kids sit on like another side. It just kind of mixes up. And usually when you're a minority student, you usually have more minority friends. It's not that you don't hang out with any and you don't have any, white or other friends from a different race. It kind of just falls with that between, in the classroom, all that kind of stuff.
What are your friends like?
A various mix. I know a lot of people that are in, so I mean, it's different. Some people, it depends on day. Like, I run track, so most of my friends, run with me, so that's, my main group of friends. But since I know a lot of people, I know a lot of, different people, so I just hang around with a lot of different people. It's cool. You get a lot of different diversity.
Okay. Is there any kind of like slang or language that anybody uses?
Yeah. A lot of stuff gets used. I mean, even some profanity and all that kind of stuff usually you hear throughout your day.
What are words that you use that would be slang or language?
I try. I don't think I use that much slang. I really don't think I use that much at all.
And the people that you hang out with, are they mostly guys or girls?
I'd say probably half and half. Half and half, depending on what I'm doing. Like probably on like a Friday night, it's a mixed group. If it's just like, going out maybe go to like a basketball game or something, it's going to be more guys than girls. But if it's like going out, going to a party, it's going to be like a real mixed. And
do you act the same when you're with girls versus hanging out with the guys?
Absolutely. I'm the same person around. And
what's that?
I'm the same person with my guy friends and my girlfriend.
So if I were to ask you, are there certain ways that guys are supposed to act versus girls?
Not really. I think it just kind of ends up like that. Yeah, you have your stereotypes, and a girl's supposed to act like this, and a guy's supposed to act like that. But there's so many different people, so a lot of my friends don't kind of, you can't really stereotype them because they're so different. Each individual is so different from the next.
But you said there were certain types of stereotypes. Let's just assume for a second it's not just your friends.
Right.
What are the stereotypes?
Your little prissy white girl dressed in Abercrombie and all that kind of stuff. And then you can, have, your different, you could have an African-American girl, she'd be dressed in, baby fat, all that kind of stuff. So, it's just different. When you meet someone, you automatically stereotype them like that. It just happens.
What do the runners wear?
I don't know. We're pretty simple. None of us really kind of go all out every day. I'm t-shirt, jeans, sneakers, nothing fancy.
But there's definitely stuff you wouldn't wear.
I'd say so.
Like what?
Sometimes people walk around in these bright colored velour suits and these just crazy colors, and I just wouldn't wear some of that stuff.
Are there issues around just gender or sexual orientation?
Around gender, I would say no, but there are people in our school who are lesbian, bisexual, and gay. Usually, they kind of tend to their own group. They hang out with each other. They have the Project 10 East Club, and usually they hang around with each other. And it's not a big deal to me if someone's has a different sexual orientation. That's their thing, and I don't really base my friends on what they like sexually. So
you say they hang around with each other. Do you think they're more uncomfortable with other people?
I'd say so, just because when you're around other people that know what it's like with your situation, it's a lot more comforting because you can talk to them and they understand. So that's the way.
Because a lot of people we talk to in the high school say, "Oh, there aren't groups."
But there very much are, I'd say. Maybe I notice it and others tend not to notice it, and you don't think there are groups, but because you don't consciously think of it like that, because it can break up in a classroom. But once you go outside, you can look around the classroom, look at lunch, and you will see it. It is automatic. It happens. You don't purposely do it like white people this side, Spanish people this side, black people this side, and you break it up. It just happens. No one does it by choice. It's just on who you usually grow up with and who you're most comfortable around.
Tell me about the other groups. You talked about gender. Are there the freaks or jocks or?
I'd say the freaks usually have their own. I wouldn't call them freaks. I call them the alternative. Blue hair, green hair. That kind of group. But usually they more hang out with the bisexual, gay group. They're more one kind of group because I feel, and maybe they feel outcasted from our school because they're so different. Most of them kind of heading towards themselves, I'd say. They like eat lunch in like the bushes and.
Are there, this is a real open question, are there like losers and winners?
Depending on who you talk to, I mean, I could definitely, point out, oh, that person's a loser. That person's pretty cool. They have, their head on their shoulders, but, that person, that's a loser. I mean, yeah, of course you have those people. Of course.
Tell me about pressure, whether it's...
What makes a person a loser?
Oh, I'm sorry. Good question. What makes a person a loser?
It depends, because usually you can judge it on, they don't do anything after school, they just kind of tend to themselves, oh, they're a loser, or, sometimes in a classroom they sit by themselves, they don't talk. So you just see them as, not a very social person, so like, oh, that person's a loser, but usually they can be a cool person, you just actually don't know who they are.
What makes someone a winner?
I don't know, a winner is kind of... It's kind of weird because you really don't, call someone a winner. You just, oh, they're normal. They're not a loser. They're more normal. No one's really a winner. I mean, you're more like loser, normal, than really a winner.
What's normal?
That's so subjective. A normal person is usually someone kind of outgoing, and normal to each person in their own race and their own gender is very, very different. Each person has their own perception of how they believe, what normal is. But really, there's no such thing as normal. You just think it in your head. That's normal to me. Whereas someone with blue hair and, black, nails painted, that could be normal to them. And, I could be the freak, and I could be different to them. So.
What about parents?
What about parents?
How do people get along with parents, your friends?
Most people's parents usually, I don't know, it depends. Like, I'd say for my thing, I'm very, very independent. Like, usually, like, I go home and I don't even need to be talked to, by parents. Of course, hi, where's dinner? And, I'm in my room doing homework, whatever, watch TV, go to sleep, wake up in the morning. But some people's parents, some parents are overprotective. Some parents are really laid back and kind of loose. But each person's parent or parents are very, very different from the next. I have never really met someone's parents that are exactly the same. Or it's so weird sometimes, just like individuals.
Do you have friends whose parents really put a lot of pressure on them? Get the right grades.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Give me an example.
A friend of mine, Danica, her parents put, you have to have, this going, you have to have, your grades, you have to have athletics, you have to be, well-rounded. And sometimes that puts a lot of pressure on someone. And sometimes it can, have the reverse effect. Instead of, them really succeeding, it can really kind of drown them out. And they don't want to do anything. They just kind of get lazy, screw this, screw my parents, I'm not doing any of this.
So parents haven't changed since I was growing up?
I wouldn't say so. Each parent wants, their, child or children to succeed and, have better than what they had. That's every parent's, dream.
And every high school student doesn't want to do what their parents do?
Not really. Certain things you kind of find annoying, like, hey, I want to stay out till 3 in the morning, partying it up. And your parents are like, no, we'll be home at 11:30. And you're like, why? And you know why. You just want your freedom. And sometimes they just cut it down.
Mickey? Questions?
I'm thinking.
Okay. What about dating?
Dating. I don't know. It's weird. There's certain pressures with dating, like, for me, if I went out with a girl, some people would be like, oh, have you had sex with her? Have you had this? Have you guys done this and that? And usually, during the summer, I have a girlfriend of mine that I hang around with a lot. And the rumor was, us two were having sex all summer. And I was like, what are you talking about? That's none of your business. And even if we were, what is it to you?
So, do you feel pressure from other folks, though, to tell them these stories?
No, absolutely not. If I have sex with someone, usually I'll tell one of my guy friends, oh, I had sex with that girl. It's not a big deal to me to tell someone, but to others it can be.
Is it important for you to tell somebody?
I don't know. For me, I have to tell someone. Like I can't just hold it in and keep my mouth shut. I have to tell someone. Someone that usually can, keep their mouth shut. They can tell someone else, but they know the guidelines. Let's not get it back to like other people that where it just becomes some big escalated problem and then it blows out of proportion.
How do you think the girl might feel?
That particular girl probably wouldn't care because she's very free with her sexuality and she really doesn't care. But I'd say most girls would be like, stereotyped as like a slut or a whore just because, you had sex with someone, whereas, I would be the man. Oh, you had sex with her, oh, you're the man, oh, what a slut, So it's more bad for her than bad for me. It's almost a positive for me.
So, sex is something you do. Drinking or drugging?
Drinking on an average weekend, I'd say most of me and my friends go out and we could tend to get hammered sometimes, and that's absolutely true. I mean, I wouldn't even lie about it. I mean, all of us have had nights where we were pretty bad, and we help each other out. As bad as it sounds, we're pretty safe. I mean, we know most of us know our limits, and if sometimes we might bypass our limit, someone's always there to help us out, and we all take care of each other.
Do you ever worry? Oh yeah, drinking and driving and safe sex, not all at the same time.
Let me touch drinking and driving. I have to say I've done it before, and it's not always a situation where you absolutely don't have to do it. Sometimes you have to get home or your ass is in big trouble. Or it's like not like hammered where you can't even stand up straight. You've had about 3 or 4 beers or 2 mixed drinks or something, and you need to drive, and you might feel a little tipsy, but you have to drive home because the reverse effect is far worse than what might happen to you on the road, because generally you might not get into an accident, but it definitely is a big risk, and it's something that parents worry about, but teenagers tend not to worry about it because it's not real in their mind until something will actually happen and one of their friends really gets hurt.
Let's see. I want to ask about safe sex. Well, safe sex is an issue.
It's the same thing. It's you don't think you're going to get an STD or you could potentially get AIDS until it actually happens. You don't think STD or AIDS are in your community until you find someone that's your best friend that gets one of these things. But as far we've been brought up in such a liberal public school that where people if you it's normal to have sex. It happens, but if you do, use a condom to protect yourself, not only yourself, but also your partner.
Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you ever worry? You're having a great time now. It's high school.
Right.
You're living it up.
Absolutely.
Do you ever worry 5, 10 years from now, you're just going to have to get normal, get a job, do what's right?
Sometimes, yeah. You have that, where parents are like, someday you're going to have to grow up and you're going to have to put all this partying behind. But I feel like once I reach that point, I will have so many years of great partying and great friends that I'll be able to put it aside. So when I decide to settle down, get married, have kids, that it's no problem.